Anyway, moving along, I guess we should talk about the Dark Side of the Ring episode that aired this past week. It's the semifinal episode of the season. Next week is the finale. And this week was on Daffney. And we had talked about it when we did the preview and etc. But it just, I mean, the whole thing was sad. And I mentioned that Stacy and she got along real well. Stace thought a lot of her, was really, hurt with what happened. And it's a sad story overall. But, and we'll talk about the show first, but also it just again brought up to me why that there ought to be more, how can I say this? Sane, level headed fucking people in charge of what people are allowed to do or not do on wrestling programs, not just now, but 15 years ago. It still existed as an issue. It just has gotten worse. But I was just seeing this show.
Are you referencing the concussion, the TNA concussion that they showed?
Well, yes. And the thing that led to it and the bullshit she had to go through afterwards. But just the thing is that this wasn't really a wrestling show per se of a long career, because unfortunately her career wasn't very long. And probably rightfully so, there was a wrestling connection to it, but it was just the story of Daffney herself and how she ended up getting into something that she really enjoyed and tried to pursue it as a dream, but ended up through mental health issues and, being taken advantage of, quite honestly. She ended up worse off for being involved with it. And I never knew that she got started as an actress with WCW. I knew peripherally she had been on WCW programming and the stuff that she did with David Flair and Devin Storm, etc. But I thought she had started in the Indies and didn't know that, she had just answered a audition call or whatever, and was apparently in movies as a kid.
I didn't know she was in Santa Claus the movie. Do you remember that?
I didn't know that they made Santa Claus the movie, to be honest with you, but
it's quite the spectacle.
I'm a little older than you are.
Dudley Moore plays an elf, and it's not like a comedy or anything. It's like a very serious, very, very serious.
He was a very serious elf.
He plays an elf, and he breaks away from Santa and the reindeer and, Mother Claus and everything else.
Runs opposition?
He goes to work for another promoter to work opposition to Santa with like this, I don't know if that was poisonous, but it was like candy that makes you fly but could also explode. And then eventually, he sees his evil ways and misses his fellow elves and returns to Santa's love. Santa Claus, the movie.
She was in it.
Or the 80s in a nutshell, yes.
Well, anyway,
well, they said it. They said Santa Claus. They didn't say Santa Claus the movie, but that's the only Santa Claus I know.
Somebody out there is going to send us a list of movies featuring Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. That was a good one, too. Nevertheless, back to Daffney. When WCW folded, and of course, they didn't go into a chapter and verse, but she was peripherally back and forth with indies. I think she quit the wrestling business for a while, but then wanted to get back in it. And I think I mentioned last week, I think I switched 2004 and 2006 or whatever, but she was in OVW here in 2003 for a very brief time when she got the developmental thing. And then, boom, she was gone again. I think they also might have sent her to Deep South for a while because she didn't spend much time here. But you got the idea that her family knew that it would probably be better for her and for her mental health if she stayed out of wrestling, but they couldn't talk her out of it. And she got better with medication. But then TNA, I was there when she came in. She was there when after I was gone. But I had again forgotten because a lot of the stuff in TNA I didn't commit to memory. I remember obviously Daffney being there, but I forgot she had done the Sarah Palin thing. And at least it got her a job, is all that's good. That was another Russo, scenario where she became the Sarah Palin spoof, and then Dr. Stevie got started. And finally, she got to be herself after some period of metamorphosis there. But anyway, I'd never seen the bump that she took that injured her that they had talked about, because that was after I think I'm going to say that was the period like 2 or 3 months after I was gone from TNA is when the bump took place. Because it wasn't long afterwards, so I wasn't watching any of the programming at that time. But when you see it, it's just so. They'd worked out as Mick Foley was unnecessary. And just why? Mick Foley's working with Abyss in one of the hardcore matches, and they've got a table with barbed wire on it on the floor at ringside. And Daffney is standing on the second turnbuckle, and Abyss had his, hand around her throat. It is like a choke slam, but actually it's just he's going to push her and she's going to do the trust fall type of thing from 8 or 10 feet in the air through a fucking table with barbed wire on it onto the fucking concrete floor that has a shitty amount of padding to begin with. And some of the talking heads on that, Mick Foley was on here, and Mick's a very nice guy and very well spoken. And, he feels bad about a variety of things that happen to people, but he's also said, well, she wanted to do it. Well, but if somebody wants to jump off a bridge, isn't that a whole industry for law enforcement to go and have somebody talk them down from it? Does everybody need to? I don't think she came to work that day. I'll tell you what, the fucking most fun thing that I could ever do would be if I jump off a fucking ring through a goddamn barbed wire wrap table. She wanted to do it because she was into the business and caught up in the moment and potentially not wanting to lose her job. But so, and also, we'll talk about repercussions from things like that in a second. But she came back from that too soon, which, yes, again, people are dedicated to their jobs when they love them. And I'm not saying she wasn't, but also there's always an aspect of I'm going to lose my spot, or if I don't get back there, whatever. And to add insult to injury, after they'd asked her to do this, they put her in the ring with that. I'd again heard about the name Rosie Lotta Love, some morbidly obese green bitch that I guess Bubba Dudley had trained down at their school that they wanted for some perverse reason to push. And this fat fucking douchebag just jumps up in the air and sits down on Daffney's chest. And Daffney at 110 pounds to make up for this corpulent fucking douchebag's 400. She just fucked her sternum up. And there was all kinds of goddamn bullshit at the time coming from TNA about it. Came down to, no, they didn't pay her medical bill. She had to fucking sue them. They didn't help her with the doctors from where she'd been flung through furniture and barbed wire and sat on by goddamn fat ass for no fucking reason but unprofessionalism. And when they finally settled with her, and Dixie Carter, her fucking rich fucking snot-nosed bitch ass had something to do with this. The settlement did include action figures that she could sell on indies and at FanFest. Did anybody wonder why that everybody thought that was a fucking... Dixie Carter was Tony Khan more elegant with tits. It was still a goddamn vanity production.
Wine, not White Claw.
So, of course, when you've got somebody that suffers from bipolar disorder to begin with and you give them brain damage with concussions, well, that's not good. And that's, she was doing appearances in fan fests pretty much after that when the injuries added up and she couldn't wrestle anymore. And but that's where she wanted her brain donated to research because of a variety of things. But when I saw that, I'm like, why the fuck? Why the fuck was that an important thing that you would do with a talent on your roster in the overall scheme of things that it was worth it? When Bubba Dudley powerbombed Jillian Hall through a table on OVW, not even on TV, in a dark match at my building, I cussed him out and it began some prickliness between us and fucking had to take Jillian Hall off TV for 3 weeks. So she'd be in a hospital. Because it just, why? Why would you do that? Anyway, she had, Daffney had started raising money for NAMI, the National Alliance or Association, I can't remember, for mental illness, but NAMI. And you may remember Stacy did a fundraiser a couple of years ago on our website in honor of Daffney with the t-shirts. But, this was just a sad episode. They finished on the only uplifting note that they could find, that she trained a girl that had been badly injured and had all kinds of health issues to have a match and fulfill her dream or whatever. But it was hard to have an uplifting end to this one. I've rambled, Brian. What'd you think? Don't be too tough.
No, I actually thought as far as an episode, if you take away the whole idea it's a wrestling documentary of any sort, I think it's one of their strongest episodes. I think a lot of that's because they had really good talking heads who could genuinely speak to a lot of things. I have questions from watching in terms of timeline and everything, and I know that's sometimes a problem with some of these, but by and large, I think they did a really good job. It was definitely one of the saddest ones, if not the saddest one ever, because almost from like the jump, you're kind of, everyone, you can kind of tell it's a sad one. Good to see Devin Storm. I've known him a long time, and he's one of the good guys. And always nice to see him and that he's healthy.
And we should identify that he is Crowbar or Chris Ford. I can't remember how they chironed him, but he'll always be Devin Storm to us because of
Dangerous Devin Storm.
His connection to Dennis Corluzzo.
What was Dangerous Devin Storm's hometown? Do you remember?
Oh, good Lord. No, I'm ashamed I don't.
Pacific Palisades, California.
That's where he got that accent.
By way of North Jersey, that's right.
But at any rate, next week, Muhammad Hassan.
I'm looking forward to see this one. Yeah, this one I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, this was a horse of a different color in that it wasn't, and I've said this when we talked about it before, it wasn't really a tragedy for poor old Mark Magnus, Mark Capani. He ended up being a successful professional educator and in the school system and everything, and a normal adult human. But boy, they gave him a career homicide with that gimmick. But Muhammad Hassan will be next week, and I will be adding some comments to that one. I took him and Davari out to get their first Arab clothes. You know that, don't you? Over to Men's Warehouse.
I believe so. I believe you said that before.
Yeah, I just took them in and said, make them look like they got money. Oh, but the question is...
Nothing says money like Joseph Aboud.
Well, hey, he's Arab. See? But the thing is, what is too dangerous? What is just ridiculous? What is not worth it? And I was thinking about that because this was just a couple months after I was gone, and I was gone a couple months after Jeff was gone. And I would like to think that maybe if I had been at that show, I could have called to somebody's attention why the fuck do this? Because there were a few times that I did that, not necessarily because something was overly dangerous, often because it made one of the main event guys look fucking, or one or more look stupid. And if that was the case, I could get Jeff in the corner and say, Jeff, if I could come up with a different way to get to the same place in terms of a promo or an angle or whatever. The time that they wanted me as the commissioner to announce Rick and Scott Steiner in a tag team match against Kurt and Karen Angle. And the Steiners were the baby faces. And I walked out, I went down the street to the Wendy's, had 2 triple cheeseburgers, thought of a fucking alternate way to get to the same place they wanted to get in the end without making that match, and went back and sat down with Jeff, and he said yes. And of course, Russo was fucking, his head caught on fire. I think we ended up making it a handicap match with the Steiners against Angle, so the Weasley heel was going to get what was coming to him, but then they turned the tables in the end or whatever, but just to not be ridiculous, right? And there was a deal where I threw my body in front of Eric Young, beating up Sting and Hernandez with a baseball bat before a pay-per-view where they were in main events and he was maybe not even on the card. But in some cases, I have talked people out of or swayed them from doing Why? Why do you want to do this? What is the reward for doing this? Because if you've got talent on your program that is over with your audience, and you have got personalities and issues between them that the people are interested in, then you don't need to create chaos with furniture and danger and blood constantly. It's only when you're trying to hot shot, to wave your willy out on the street and say, look at me, look at me. Can you top this bullshit? And, I know a lot of people like to say, well, all the Cornette's businesses went out of business. If all of my businesses, how many businesses have you had to begin with? How many thousands of hours of wrestling, television, and live events have you produced single-handedly? When you have anywhere near that level of experience in that stratosphere, come and see me, otherwise blow me. And in Ohio Valley Wrestling, which not only was a successful training program, but also was one of the only 2 full-time profitable wrestling promotions in the United States of America for 6 or 7 year period, we might have broken a table 3 times a year at the Gardens in front of a fucking 6,000 people. The Hardys and Lita against the Disciples of Sin. Lita put Sin through a table. Or Trailer Park Trash and Flash at the Gardens in their blow-off in front of 4,000 people. They broke a table. We never used barbed wire of any description. We never, as a matter of fact, it was against the law in the state of Kentucky to bleed. So we didn't use blood. But we were the biggest ongoing entertainment attraction at Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom here with wrestling. In Smoky Mountain Wrestling, we used a barbed wire cage and we worked it. The barbed wire was encircling everyone. The idea was to stay away from it, not take bumps in it. That's what they wanted to see. So you give a little bit to them. Never used thumbtacks, never used light tubes, never used real fire on people. We burned a flag or 2. Nobody ever took any bumps on broken glass. Nobody ever broke an unbaked bottle on anybody. And in Ring of Honor, I've told stories about how I tried to talk a few people off the ledge, literally, or would let them do their dive off the balcony only after walking through it and even making sure that the goddamn railing wasn't slick. Think about things ahead of time and determine whether it's worth it or not. But this 110-pound girl, that's different than Drew McIntyre taking that bump. And I'm sorry if that sounds sexist, but it's also factual. And I don't know why that, especially it galled me. I know Shitstain was still there. I don't know who else was involved in any kind of decision making. But why would you ask, especially for no appreciable reward? How many tickets was it going to sell? How many at that time, how many pay-per-views was it going to sell? Did anybody even buy TNA pay-per-views at that point? What difference was it going to make to business on a positive basis to throw this girl 10 feet in the air through barbed wire and furniture? And certainly I would like to think that if I'd have been there, I could have said, well, we do something else. But the inmates had taken over the asylum. So this ain't new. The disgust I have for AEW and all these indie goofballs doing this shit for no good reason otherwise than they're fucking marks for themselves, because it makes the business look bad when the girl is not paralyzed permanently and ever recovers again. And if the girl is paralyzed and never recovers again, well, it kind of sucks for the girl or the guy, as the case may be. So why do this stupid fucking shit? And here's a lesson to all of you in 2025. There was just on TV from fucking 15 years ago. Don't ask people to do stupid shit. It doesn't mean anything for business just because you're all marks. You think you're fucking movie stuntmen. I'm sorry, Brian. What do you think?
Well, like you said, a lot of these things have no impact. So what are you really doing? You know, the situation we're talking about with Daffney, it wasn't going to cause the rating to go up or down. It was just something to happen that had pretty bad consequences. There's a lot of that. Look, how many guys we're going to find out really hurt their necks and their shoulders and their backs from being big, so they had to always be out there to catch whoever was flipping off whatever on the floor. You know, we're going to hear about, I mean, it's a pro-injury style of wrestling right now. And, you know, Mick Foley justifies everything that he did because it's what he wanted to do. And that's how he could justify that for anyone else. But that's kind of the problem right now. You don't have the leadership.
But you know what another difference was? The stuff that Mick Foley did, and of course we've said people abused it and thought they could do the same thing without seeing Mick's other talents and appeal and etc. But Mick Foley had a legitimate reason to believe that if he got over on top, he could make 7 figures a year, and he did. There was never a goddamn position or a spot open or a way in the freaking world that Daffney was ever going to make the same amount of money as Mick Foley, but she's out there taking the same kind of bumps. And at some point, you know, yes, we all enjoyed being in the wrestling business because it was fun performing in whatever we were performing. But at some point, you have to be halfway, you know, a level-headed person and realize what you should be or shouldn't be doing with your body. And also the company that is, or the promotion or the entity that's doing the thing, it has to, I mean, I always wanted the guys to fucking go out and have any match they wanted to have. But if somebody had just decided they were going to go up to the second level of the building and take bumps off the balcony and I didn't know about it, I'd have fired them if they lived. The promotion has to have some responsibility for not letting some of these people make decisions they shouldn't make. And that refers to the guys, the girls, and everybody in the business these days, just because they think it's so much fun. It ain't gonna be fun. as they used to say, when you're sucking soup through a straw, or when you're riding around in your motorized wheelchair.
I think a sad reality is that too many wrestlers see a lot of these things that you're talking about, whether it's thumbtacks or, the chair shots really aren't the issue they once were, but a lot of these different things, I think too many see it as a rite of passage. Like it's something you're supposed to do. It's become normalized both on the independent scene and on the mainstream scene. Even
But what's the
WWE
matter
does it.
then with the younger generation? If there'd been any rite of passage for anything that I ever wanted to do in my life, whether fucking for fun or profit, and somebody said, well, first you got to fall in some thumbtacks. Well, fuck you. I'll find something else. Thank you. I, and you mentioned chair shots. That's another thing that was an issue because they made it one because they were idiots and they were marks for themselves. Chair shots were never given in wrestling with full force to the fucking head with no hands, no blocking, no art, no trick of the trade, no whatever. Almost never. The people that did do it didn't get a chance to do it too much more. People would just not let them hit them with a chair. But then the ECW idiots and all of the hardcore bullshit, they started to, oh, how hard can you hit me and I can take it? Because we want to make it real. Well, what you did was you made everything else phony and you made yourself stupid. And because people were conditioned to chair shots delivered as the art. Bobby Eaton could give or take one. Every professional could give or take one. I would much rather be hit by a chair by anybody in the territory wrestling days than again stand under one of these fucking awkward fuckers trying to catch them. But when they became marks and decided to do it for real, then everybody got up in arms. Well, now with what we know about concussions, there shouldn't be any chair shots. No shit, there should have been no chair shots anyway, you dumb fuckers. Where were we going with that?
What is too dangerous? What should be allowed?
Well,
what is the
a lot of yes. The art of pro wrestling is simulating conflict in a manner in which it might hurt, but it won't injure you. A lot of things in wrestling hurt, but they don't hurt you. And the things that the guys are doing now that they think somehow makes wrestling more legitimate actually makes it more fake and see-through. Because it's shit that requires much more setup, much more obvious cooperation. And then you get your holy shit moment where it's like, holy shit, they're both dead. But that's the antithesis of what you're trying to get out of wrestling. The idea that there isn't cooperation, and it is a real conflict, and that's what you're supposed to make look real. That's totally forgotten. So, in effect, you're damaging yourself for real to the people that most know that the shit you're doing is phony. So y'all can have it. I need a drink, Brian.
Oh, do you now?
I need a drink. Now, a lot of people are saying, Cornette, we didn't know you were a tippler. We didn't know you were a booze hound, a wino. No. Au contraire, mon frere. Because now, Brian, you know what? You can have a delicious, refreshing drink with no alcohol, no hangover. You can relax without feeling like you were polaxed with our friends at Cornbread Hemp and their THC seltzers. Because you know that now more people are consuming the cannabis than consuming the alcohol. Because think about this now.
Makes sense.
No hangover, no questionable bad decisions. Boy, talk about the wrestling profession. You're not going to be out there driving like a drunk maniac, bouncing off the walls of the interstate and being a hazard to people. You're just going to relax. And with
Laugh.
the new line of...
And enjoy music.
And laugh. You can enjoy it, not your music. Nobody,
Hey.
They have a black tar heroin wouldn't help
what's your problem?
Your shit, but no, the THC seltzers that Cornbread Hemp has launched, they taste great, they feel great, and they're less filling, to coin a phrase there, because it's a low-calorie drink, 30 calories, 5 grams of sugar, but it's made with pure THC and all natural ingredients, no synthetics, no pond water, no effluvia from the city sewage system. I'm telling you what, it's pure as the driven snow, and it hadn't even drifted yet. Each of these cans of seltzer, and listen, by the way, to the incredible flavors. I'm talking about the Blueberry Breeze, juicy, fresh blueberries with a soft, fizzy finish. You've got the peach iced tea, ripe peaches blended with smooth, refreshing iced tea. That's not for me, because you know me and tea. But I like peaches. And the raspberry limeade, bright, sweet raspberry and bold, tangy lime, or salted watermelon. The perfect thing for the summer cookouts. You're grilling out. You got the burger, you got the dog, you got the salted watermelon with the THC, and pretty soon you're pickled without a hangover the next day.
I wouldn't say pickled. I would say enjoying that barbecue. With your...
Yes, don't climb up into the barbecue, folks. Do not curl up. It may be a warm spot, but do not curl up into the barbecue.
I don't know why you would even say that. I don't think that was on anyone's mind, but you could check out these fine seltzers. The Blueberry Breeze sounds very nice about now.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we got the sampler
fizz
box. The Blueberry Breeze. It's a soft, fizzy finish.
It's a blue fizz.
Yes. Well, it breezes along and then fizzes when it gets angry. But we got the starter, or not the starter, but the sampler pack of all the flavors, and I enjoyed the Blueberry Breeze. Stacy is partial to the peach iced tea because if she drinks tea, she's one of those type of people. But they got something for everybody. And again, our friends at Cornbread Hemp, they're located right here in Louisville, Kentucky. These two guys, they're entrepreneurs of the finest kind that have started this fine company. And boy, howdy, I'll tell you what. So whether you want to just have a sip in the evening after work so that you stop thinking about different ways to hang your boss from the highest yardarm in the British fleet, or you want to sit down with some friends at the barbecue and without curling up in the barbecue, have a nice time and relax. No booze, no bad decisions, no hangover, just pure THC and all natural berries and fruits and things of that nature. Stuff that you wouldn't mind putting inside your body. And you can drink it instead of inserting it anally. And right now, folks, our listeners can save 30% off their first order and enjoy free shipping on orders over $75 if you go to cornbreadhemp.com. That's CORNBREAD, cornbreadhemp.com/JCE, and use the code JCE at checkout. You're going to get 30% off your first order, free shipping on orders over $75. Cornbread Hemp, this is the good life. The good life, Brian. You need to live a good... Is that why I'm so happy today? Not because I got a good night's sleep, not because I got a good meal, but because I just had just a sip of my Blueberry Breeze.
Maybe you need to chug it. But Blueberry Breeze from our friends at Cornbread Hemp in Louisville, Kentucky. One more time, Jim, what's that promo code to check out this great product?
That is JCE, cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout. No alcohol, no guilt, no regrets. You drink a couple of these, you can do anything. You won't feel bad about it. Cornbread Hemp and their wonderful seltzers.
We're at the end.
It says no regrets.
Oh, okay. Well, then no regrets.
No regrets.